All right, it's 6:30. I'm going to call the meeting to order. 2 point prayer. Mr. Whalen.
Let's pray. Lord God Almighty, thank you for the opportunity to once again come before you and discuss the Stephenson County Nursing Center. And I pray that you help us to work through things in an amicable and respectful way, that you help us to consider things fully, understand things fully, and make good decisions for both people that live there and work there and the people of this county. Who take care of a good chunk of the burden of paying for it. So pray that we consider all these things and submit them all to you. In Jesus' name, amen.
3.0 approval of tonight's agenda. Do I have a motion to approve? Motion. By Jackie, do I have a second?
Second.
By Mr. Hadley. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 4.0 review and approval of meeting minutes from March 13th, 2025. Do I have a motion to approve?
So
By Mr. Whaley, do I have a second?
second.
By Mr. Hadley. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Approval of claims totaling in the amount of cash requirements and annual $260,368.04. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
By Mr. Hadley, do I have a second? Mr. Whalen, any discussion? All right, seeing none, all of them in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carried. 6.0 public comment. Do I have any public comment? If I do, please state your name and you have 3 minutes.
Casey Anthony, resident of Freeport, former county board member, former chair of this committee. Just wanted to speak on the RFP. Just little kind of history, something for you to consider when you're talking about potential sale of the nursing home. There's multiple processes that have to happen beyond just finding a potential buyer and then the board approving that sale. I think the biggest hurdle that you're going to come across is the IDPH stamp of approval. So you could get through this entire process, agree to a sale price, and it goes to the Illinois Department of Public Health, and then the Illinois Department of Public Health can vote. They recently did that in DeKalb County. So I'm not sure if anyone has looked more into where the Illinois Department of Public Health is now on the sale of county homes to private companies, but I would hate for everyone to waste their money and energy in something that's just going to be blocked. So I would really consider that you look into that, just simply because I know that DeKalb County went through months and months, and then at the very end, IDPH blocked it, and they still own their county nursing home and are still needing to go through all of this that we're already doing right now. So just wanted to offer that piece of information as something to consider when making that choice. I have to get back to my children, so thank you for letting me go first. And I'm going to tune in to listen to the rest of the conversation on YouTube, which is a great resource. So thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else?
Is this public comment?
Yes.
Yeah, I have a public comment. Anybody else?
Oh, hold on 1 second. You got it.
Hi, Ed Klein, who live on the west side of town. You all know me. This seems like deja vu because it was just a couple years ago where you went through this process and could not find a suitable buyer. At the time, if you remember, I don't know if you do or not, but many people pleaded with the board to make a statement after that sale fell through to say that the nursing home was open for business. It never happened. We pleaded with you to do that. The census went down, and you all know that census is definitely related to viability of the facility. And now I was encouraged because the census is back up. It is actually improving. We have a full-time administrator. I hope you mentioned to him when you hired him that it was going to be a possibility of selling the nursing home. Otherwise, it would have been very fair for him to move across the country. But this is still a crazy idea. The community wants this home. The county has the funds. It has funds in the general fund that you are saving for a rainy day. I understand that. But if it was another facility that you appreciated, you would either find the money, borrow it if you had to, or just, you would fund that. It's common sense. It's not a priority. The elderly people in this community are not a priority, and so you just keep doing the same thing. What was really disturbing to me was after we actually had, last time we had to actually have a press conference to get that word out, which really is not like coming from the board. But after we did that, Mr. Helm said this was a blatant and shameless showing of political gamesmanship and self-promotion. You continued by saying, rather than taking the high road and focusing on quality care, the local Democrat Party is using the most vulnerable among us as political pawns for the upcoming March and November elections. It says, while the chairman remains fully committed to providing quality care to the residents of Walnut Acres and maintaining jobs, this press conference was disappointing and quite frankly disgusting. I don't know why it would be disgusting to tell the community that this facility is open for business. We want you here. We still, this is 2 years later, and we still get people who say, oh, I thought that place is for sale. So once this happens, that's what continues. People continue to think it's for sale. So even if in this process, you've already, your census is going to go down. This is not a good management of county funds. It doesn't make any sense to me. And so I'm really interested to see what this presentation is going to be to talk us all into that somehow the sky is falling and now we have to sell it. Okay.
Next, ma'am.
My name is Rhonda Scott, and I would like to see our property taxes used to fund the nursing center. The board can decide to fund whatever it wants. The last time I was here, I think it was last in the fall, there was an issue where somebody needed a HVAC unit. I can't remember if it was the courthouse, the jail or something, but some law enforcement agency. And you miraculously came up with the money for that. But when the nursing home needed it on the same agenda, it was like, we don't have enough money. So where is this coming from? If you're not going to provide services for us who are paying taxes in the county, we don't need a county board. We expect you to provide services with our tax dollars. Now, I know you can only fund certain things based on your budget. And I know that courts and jails have to be funded because you're putting pressure on that you've got to do this and it's the law. Nursing homes have historically been funded by wealthy people who would set up a nursing home so that the aging population would have a place to go. And then the wealthy people would gain public support and funds and run these nursing homes. That's not how it is anymore. Now we've got a county one and it needs funds. So how do we pay for it? Here's my idea. We have funds right now. Do you realize we have $3.8 million surplus property tax funds sitting in the Lamb Road TIF? 11% of that would go to the county amounts to more than $400,000. So if we close down that Lamb Road TIF, instantly that money comes back to you. The schools get their 60%, the city gets their 10%, the library gets their 8 or 9%, the park district gets theirs. That money is sitting there unused, and I have just gone through 15 years of TIF reports, and I have made a list of every person and every business that has received $1 out of that TIF, and it's significant. And I'm just going to name some of the recipients: Walmart, Menards, Tri-State Metals, I think that's the number. Sega Manufacturing, owned by Steve Chesney before he retired. That's where that money went. And I have a list to show you where all the money went and who it went to. So my recommendation to you is take this action. Let's call to have that TIF shut down. It's operated for 20 years. They can only go for 23 years. And I was like a fly on the wall and found out they plan on extending that TIF. So if you don't want that TIF extended for another 35 or 45 years and having our property taxes going down there to developers, we need to stop it and get that money coming back into our community, back into our county board. Thank you.
Next.
First off, my name is Cody Dornis. I'm the staff rep with ASME Council 31. I represent the workers out at the nursing home. I first want to say thank you to the folks who returned my phone calls today and were able to hear me out. But the one thing, there's a couple things I want to stress today. I just came from the home visiting the workers. I've been going up there once a week. First off, this home has incredible workers who care about their gals. They've been there, some folks have been there for 20 years. And, you know, some of the conversations I had today, they're not there for the money. We know that. They're there because they care about what they do. They care about the service they provide. And what I seen today, as I walked, you know, in there and spoke with other people, I saw the look of defeat. I saw the look of people who have gone through this over and over and over and over again, who are tired. I tried getting some of them to come up here and fight with me. They're working 2 jobs. They're working overtime. And quite frankly, some of them said, I'm tired. I'm tired of always worried about what is going to happen to me tomorrow. Am I going to have a job tomorrow? Am I going to be able to take care of the people that I take care of every single day, the people I've been around for years? But that's the look I saw when I went around. Since I came on as a staff rep and I started working with the home, and I've been frequenting some of these meetings on occasion, I've been watching on YouTube. There's a couple things I've seen. I've seen an effort where we've tried to fix, you know, what we think is broken with this home. We brought on a new administrator, and as a union man, it's sometimes hard to. Thank you. Sometimes it's hard to give, you know, a supervisor or management credit, and I will give credit on this one. Marcos, I usually stop in and I talk with him once a week when I'm there, and I hear a long-term plan. I hear a way to fix this place. I hear a way to make it better, how to pull us out of the trenches where we have been. And, you know, I've seen the census slightly increase a little bit. I've seen the morale of the employees who walk around there, like uptick, like they're happier now. And what I'm saying here, and I did bring actually one with me. And I hope she's gonna speak when I'm done. What I'm saying here is we've been trying. We've been trying, and I think we're making a difference. I think we're starting to move in the right direction, and that we shouldn't be throwing this away. You know, if we sell this place, what's gonna happen to the workers there? There's no guarantee they have a job. What's gonna happen to the residents there? There's no guarantee they stay there. What's gonna happen to these folks who's been contributing to IMRF, who are on the verge of retirement, or are looking for a retirement? That's all taken away from them. There is a huge cost that these workers and these residents are facing if we go through with this and make this decision. I'm not gonna go into the history of what's happened over the years. I mean, I think we all know we've tried to sell it, we couldn't sell it, we tried to find bidders. And you know, sometimes these bidders that we find they're just not good employers. They're not good for the residents, they're not good for the community. And especially I would say in today's market, it's gonna be hard. So all the resources that we keep putting in to just throw away the home, because essentially in my eyes, it's kind of what we're doing. It's a problem we don't want to fix, and we're throwing away. I'm asking you tonight, please vote no. Thank you.
Anybody else? You don't have to take the whole 3 minutes of you.
I got that job when I was really in a bad financial place.
State your name first.
I'm sorry, Shan Stewart. I was a caregiver for another company where I was just losing hours, and that was just such an amazing thing how I got the job, because I replied, I called, I filled out the application, and the next thing I knew, I was in an interview with the boss. And the next thing I knew, I was getting offered the job, which was just amazing. And I've never been an activity aide. I always wanted to be one, and it's just been a dream job. But what's so amazing is I don't really have a family here, and except my church, but these residents have become my family. I don't even feel like I'm in a job anymore. I just feel like I'm there to play with them and interact with them. And I've just seen, I've met some amazing people, and the whole place just feels like home. And everybody there, I mean, I've worked in other nursing homes and stuff like that, and the staff is never as caring and wonderful as this one is. And we're not working for very much, most of us. I'm certainly not. But the reward is the people. The reward is what I get to do. And for a lot of these people, this is the best place they've been in. They've been in other homes and nursing homes, that this is the place where they really feel at home and cared for. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right. Sorry. I think you said back there, but I didn't know.
Jody Goss. A couple things I want to remind you that the HVAC units were delayed getting installed. My daughter's father-in-law tried to get a bed. There was 3 on the waiting list. He could not get one. That was from the 20th of January through the month of February. I'm not sure how many patients we turned away, but it was a private pay patient that was turned away, and I was told that there was at least 3 others. And then I want to remind those people that don't like to spend money that by putting this unit or this nursing home up for sale, there will be a fight. In the state of Illinois, there is a law that says if you built the institution with a referendum, you have to have a referendum to sell it. I know that Carl Larson has given a pretzel-like explanation of how that doesn't really apply. We might lose it here locally, but I have a feeling when it went to appeals court that we would probably win that. So that's a lengthy process, expensive process that we'd have to go through. And then you have to get your certificate of need. And I know that there'd be a lot of people willing to go to Springfield and speak to the need of this nursing home. So I really don't want to spend our tax dollars, that way. I'd like to see our tax dollars spent in supporting this nursing home. There's a reason that it feels like home, because it is a home for all of the residents that are out there. And I think that it's important that we remember that.
Thank you. One more.
If everybody's done. Okay. My name's Lynette Williams. I'm a newly elected board member in November of 24, representing the people of District E. I'm not a member of this committee, but if this issue passes on to the county board, I will be voting on it. I'm receiving the emails that come from the county treasurer on the financial status of the nursing center. I know what the issue was that brought this decision to the agenda. I also know and feel that before I came on the board did this facility no favors by not even accommodating them when it came to the financial situation. Each of you were aware of the precarious situation that the facility was in, and when receiving ARPA funds and when budgeting, there was no mention of possibly assisting the facility in its financing. The facility has finally located an administrator in Marco Perez, who has only been with the county payroll since January of this year. And he came on as a temporary contract employee in August. Then, to add to insult to injury, TCM asked for their payment of their services, which they were obviously due. And this committee jumped on the possibility to replace them with another billing company. And they've only been on board 2 months. I would like to point out that the facility could be coming back financially, but you are bringing this to the table and will undermine any and all work that is being done to get this facility back on its feet and to reassure the public of a possible future for the facility. I feel I have a good understanding of the finances of the facility, and at this point, not even a year out from hiring the permanent administrator, you've not given this enough time right now, this year. And I strongly suggest giving the people that you've put in place at least a year before discussing this. And then let's take this to the people by referendum before acting. Thank you.
All right, anyone? Okay, seeing none. 7.0 reports to committee. 7.1. Mr. Perez, you're up.
Right. So, our reporting this month now for the April meeting is reflective of, the committee has seen, we do each month now for the previous month. In this case, March of this year. As the committee knows, when I write this report, at the time prior to submission, I always record the current census, reflective of the facility, which I'm very happy to report that the facility has been on a positive upswing. With the current census at the time of the writing of this report being 53. Current census being now today 54 with one admission today in this case. And a lot of the admissions, as it's been in the 8 months that I've been overseeing the facility since August of last year, have been the referrals from various referral sources for short-term stays, which, as I've explained to the committee in the past, involve the use of someone's Medicare benefits for short-term rehabilitation or skilled nursing and rehabilitation. So as far as our rehab to home program and facility, as other skilled nursing facilities across the state get reimbursed at a much higher rate for short-term stays in the way that they do, as compared to say maybe a long-term stay through someone's Medicaid benefits. So just keeping that in mind as well. As the committee knows, I also kind of give kind of a historical perspective as far as where the facility's been, even obviously prior to my arrival there. Point B, under admissions and marketing, in this case, monthly average census for March of last year was only 45. So we've gone from 45 last year now to 53 this year. And again, now 54 today. And my goal is to push now into the 60s for the building and continuing to grow from there. Average monthly census for February of, just going to give perspective from month to month as well. This year was 45. January was 47. December was 44, and November of this past year was 43. So we continue on an upward trend for the building. Working with our admissions and marketing director, Jeannie Cross, who's been in place prior to my arrival, as far as her marketing efforts for the facility have proven, in my view, successful. As far as getting the word out there, at least for our part, as far as, again, growing the facility census and making the community both throughout the county and beyond aware as far as the services and the quality of care that we provide as a facility. And so again, I feel like those efforts are bearing fruit and the census continues to increase at this point. The breakdown there as well for the committee's review, speaking to Medicare Part A, those that have their traditional Medicare benefits, those that don't have an insurance company that dictates their Medicare benefits. We had, as far as the 53 that I've recorded for the current census, 5 of those, which is an upward tick of an increase of 3. Medicare A, or those that have the insurance companies that manage their benefits is 8. So that's pretty much kind of where it's been with regard to that. Those that have an insurance company that manages their Medicaid benefits for a long-term stay, 22. The 53 in this case, and so that's kind of been where it's been. As far as those individuals that are on a long-term stay for also receiving hospice care, but also having Medicaid, that's at 2. That stays pretty consistent from where it's been. Those individuals that are Medicaid pending, so that's not necessarily just individuals that we admit that, and Jennifer as the business office, Jennifer Alanis as the business office manager can speak to this, and she sees fit as well. But as far as those individuals, it's not just those individuals that we admit that maybe we would have to apply for Medicaid, but also individuals that also have redetermination. So throughout the course of their stay, they have to go through the process of redetermination, which will allow them to potentially continue their Medicaid coverage. And so we kind of go through that rigmarole yearly in this case. So Jennifer has been key since her arrival in overseeing that process for the facility and working through those. Also individuals that have just simply traditional Medicaid, for a long-term stay, those that don't have insurance companies that manage their long-term Medicaid benefits are at 8, upwards of about 1. The amount of private pay, just strict private pay, being just sticking where we were the previous month with having none in this case. And those that are receiving hospice care and paying privately, still at 2 in the facility, again for 53 for the month. Admissions for March were 11, which for the building historically is a higher number. Total discharges for March as well were 4, so discharges from the facility as a whole, whether that be rehab to home or what have you. And the total number of hospital leaves and go to those that are sent out to the hospital for being 2 in this case, giving kind of a historical perspective there as well. For March of 2024, which was about 4 months before I came on board, the total number of admissions was 6 for March of 2024. Discharges in the same month last year were 1, and hospital leaves were also 1. just to kind of give a perspective there as far as census development from where we've been to where we are now. So I'm definitely encouraged as far as the efforts that we put into place and continuing again now down that path to further that process of census development. And I'll feel a lot better once we're, in the 60s in this case. So as I started when we were at 39, now pushing into the 40s and now into the 50s and now the goal pushing into the 60s now by this point. So just kind of give a little bit of perspective there. The committee should have also received, I think, from the county administrator, a copy of the activity calendar for the most recent month for April now of this year. So just as far as that information, as far as the events we put on for the residents, we had our Easter egg hunt last weekend, which was, from what the facility members management tell me, that's the first time they've done that possibly in ever that they've done that. So starting off small with kind of a smaller response for that, but again, growing, I think we'll grow, from year to year as far as, events like that in this case. So accounts payable, obviously the committee's already approved as far as claims in this case. And Jennifer, again, you can feel free to comment as you see fit, but and just to let the committee know that, again, working as we have been with the county treasurer's office, being more strategic as far as the prioritization of claims, as far as individual invoices, that, again, per what, and the reality is, as the committee has known even since I've been on board, as far as the amount of accounts payable that we have owed and still owe at this point as a facility. And I think that point does need to be, again, just emphasized again that, we historically and even now still, have past due amounts from various vendors. The county treasurer has reported, at this point, approximately $1.2 million in accounts payable that, we're still working and chipping away as far as those amounts. And so, again, trying to be strategic as far as what our, highest priority items are from month to month. Also, I will tell the committee as well, I report to the committee that as I've reflected on census from month to month, the revenue that we receive as a facility is also, of course, directly reflective of that. I had communicated that more recently, with regard to reimbursement as it is, or as it was, reviewing with the business office as well as far as amounts that we were able to generate internally. Looking even back towards November, around 400,000, same thing for December. In January, we reached almost 600,000 as far as amounts actually deposited by the facility. February was a little bit lower than that, and then it bounced back up in March. Our census now is as high as it's ever been since I've been on board. The previous administration, I think the high point was 54 as well. So we hope to now surpass that. But our rate of reimbursement, as far as dollar amounts deposited, should be a very positive reflection as of now, the previous month. And where we are at this point. So just something for the committee to keep in mind as far as revenues received against census, as far as we are with census at this point. Just a note as well, as far as we have an individual nurse manager that handles all of the quarterly assessments that are completed for the residents. Something Jennifer and I have talked about more recently is the state, mostly the state, and various insurance companies that they contract with will at times go back and they will ask for medical records and documentation as it relates to reimbursement that we've received for various residents. And then they do a medical records request and we have to send them documentation, and then they'll look to see if everything was as it should be. As far as the clinical data that we submit for, through the process of those quarterly assessments for while the resident is with us, to make sure that, all of our T's were crossed and I's were dotted. And so at times, and even in the time I've been on board and possibly even prior under the previous administration, we, combat that. It's because there's always a potential for recoupment of funds if the facility in the past did not clinically assess or, cross every T and dot every I as far as the assessments, the clinical data that was submitted to the state and federal government throughout the course of that assessment process. So as those come up, we will make mention of those as far as any sort of potential recoupments for past days in this case. So just something to note as far as that. Jennifer, I won't skip over you as far as the business officer, anything outside of what we'll talk about with regard to the quality healthcare people and any of that, anything you want to note as far as the business office, as far as your department.
Just the Medicaid, the pending, like you had said, they're not all just the Medicaid pending. Some of them, when they come in with Medicaid benefits, they are immediately admitted with Medicaid pending until they are admitted into the Medicaid system. as being at the facility. So that doesn't necessarily mean that they're a Medicaid pending application. It just means that they're pending with us until Medicaid flips their system to where they're at the facility. So I just think that it's usually better to be clear on the breakdown of that. So there's the 8 total, the 3 Medicaid redeterminations, 4 of them that are Medicaid applications that have actually already been submitted, just waiting on the approval, which actually made it to 5 because it was 4 and 1, so it's actually 5 now. Other than that, that's really pretty much it as far as the pending, so.
Okay. I think that's pretty much all as far as the main items. The maintenance director, of course, submits his report as far as any maintenance related items, as far as any systems, information as far as the infrastructure of the facility, but there have been, by the grace of God, there's been no, there's been no major items to report in that way. As was already mentioned as well, as far as the completion of the HVAC project, which was already reported last month. And that project having been, met the facility's needs and was in the end a success and meets the needs of the residents. So as we can continue to expand the facility as far as the census in this case.
On this, I have a question. Hey, on the HVAC. I noticed that our county treasurer, when she sent out the email the other day, she says that we owe Lushers a bill. Now, the board approved $200,000 of ARPA money to do this HVAC system. Did we run over cost on this 200,000?
So when this project started, even last year as it was, based on my own understanding, I read as far as the original agreement that was signed off on in the summer of last year, as far as the project as a whole. The amount of money that was budgeted in last year's fiscal year for that project was not the same amount as far as what was originally agreed to, as far as the scope of the project. So in the end, the project didn't complete until now, just recently. We're in April now, so this was within reported on last month. So there was an amount that was still to be paid to Lester's in this case for the project. And so what remained, as I understood it, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but what remained in as far as amounts, budgeted amounts for this year were meant to pay off the remaining portion of that project. Because they can continue into this year, and the original amount that was agreed to was not the same as what was originally budgeted for last year's fiscal year budget. So it did spill into this year somewhat.
When we approved the budget and approved the bid for it, it was the right amount of money at that time. So
If I could,
Yes, Chairman.
so the correct amount was budgeted in 2024. The project did not get completed until 2025. There were no capital dollars budgeted for 2025 for this replacement. So there's $20,000, I believe, that we're looking for the budget amendment on Monday to move how much? 13, thank you. As a budget amendment to move from capital back over to the nursing home to cover that, because again, we assumed the project would be completed in 2024. However, we will be over about $16,000, which again, my plan was to use the remainder of the advance on the levy, which is just about the right amount to make sure Lester's is paid.
So there was an overrun cost
About 16,000.
over 200,000. This should have probably been reported to us. Maybe it has, maybe I didn't hear it.
The bill came March 28th.
Well, I mean, I can show you what was budgeted for last year's fiscal year budget.
Yeah.
And I can show you what was signed off on by the county government at that time. So, I can show you those different amounts if you'd like.
No, if we knew that there was gonna be an overrun, we should have probably carried some ARPA money over, in the budget, so. It's our mistake, so, okay.
Well, again, I was going to say, we anticipated it being completely paid in 2024. Unfortunately, it didn't get completed until later.
Okay, thank you for the explanation.
Okay. All right, as far as the standard areas that I cover, I think that's about it, at least at this time, outside of anything related to matrix care and quality healthcare resources. So.
Okay. Any questions from Marcos before we move on to the next report? Okay,
hold on,
Yep.
HR report,
Which the HR director did submit.
yeah, I'm looking at it, what are we down right now out there?
As far as open positions.
Yes,
So as it's been in the 8 months I've been overseeing things there, we are still in need of frontline, or what I call frontline nursing positions. So as far as CNAs and nurses, we need full-time and or part-time CNAs and nurses across all shifts at this point. The amount of contracted agency labor that we use is still high at this point. The facility's been using a contracted agency labor since the pandemic and had never stopped. The amount of applicants that we receive is fairly low because, for various reasons, but that is still the reality that we deal with at this point. So we're still making use of contracted agency labor to fill the holes in the schedule at this point.
so how many would we need tomorrow if people put in applications? How many positions could we fill?
Well, let's see. On day shift for CNAs, I would say we need at least 2 full-time CNAs. On second shift, probably the same amount. And on third shift, I would say maybe 1 full-time CNA, as far as what we call a full-time equivalent, an FTE. As far as nurses, we lost the only full-time RN that we had because she had resigned from her position. And so, at this point, we need probably at least 4 to 5 full-time RNs or LPNs at this point. So.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
All right, moving on. Matrix care report, 7.2.
To the points that have been made earlier, as far as the introduction of the new service provider for the facility, as far as billing and collections, quality healthcare resources under the auspices of Matrix Care. Matrix Care, as a reminder, is the electronic health record system that we use to manage resident information, both clinical and financial. The building's been using Matrix Care for quite a long time, long before I ever arrived in that building. So in this case, the county board had approved the agreement with Quality Healthcare Resources, and now we've been working with them since the transition away from the previous provider at the beginning of this year. The Quality Healthcare Resources will be submitting reports as I forward to the county administrator for forward on to the committee and then to the county board as far as their month-to-month efforts. So to kind of give an idea of the basic breakdown, I'll try to make this concise. As far as a basic breakdown of information, as far as their efforts from month to month, going back to January, in this case, when they started, they have given me a breakdown in their report as far as all payer sources, any insurances that we would ever bill for services that were provided. Monthly charges were $495,077.19. So almost 500,000 for that month. They had reported cash received almost 464,000 for the month as well, outside of what I had reported as far as amounts deposited for the month of January. They did confirm in their report January billing was completed, and as the committee might recall, that was what I think one of the more immediate concerns when the services came online was as far as billing for the month of January. So they have confirmed January billing was completed. And so they've continued since that time with billing for each month. As Jennifer has played has been a key figure as their primary point of contact for the facility as far as all accounts, as far as billing and collections. Since January, they've now done February billing. We're going into, with us being today the 10th of April. Now they're working on March billing for March dates of service in this case. And then in May, they'll bill for April as far as what that's been. They had noted here the cash that was received in January is mostly related to December charges and which is normally what I would expect. At the time, and this reporting again, just even at that time, they had noted that let's just say we're taking into account new data that maybe the previous provider didn't take into account as far as ancillary invoices, as far as if you want to give a summary of what that means.
Just the ancillary invoices for Medicare A and Medicare managed Medicare A residents. So it's usually like the x-rays, labs. It's also any rental equipment for them as well, and the pharmacy bill. I think that's all of them. that we are now entering into Matrix to add on to the bills.
So as far as additional financial data that they make use of for billing and collections purposes for more accurate, for more accuracy in those processes, basically. Talking about, they referenced your Medicare Part B diagnosis, like coding, medical coding. As far as the quarterly assessments that I had made mention that the nurse manager that does the quarterly assessments for every resident, as far as those processes that we work through each month, we have, by this point, I think it's easy to be said that we're coordinating with quality healthcare as far as every step of the way as we go through each month. Jennifer primarily, and then of course me secondarily, meet with this, have a conference call with this company on Tuesday of each week, where we go through every account as far as information that's still needed, as far as any payer source, whether a long-term resident or short-term resident, as far as Medicare, Medicaid, private pay, any of it. So we are meeting with them weekly as far as any accounts that are still outstanding or that still need further work at this point. They made reference of cash posting deposit backups, as the county treasurer can also report on. They've been hitting her up too as far as additional financial documentation, as far as getting accounts set up, as far as being able to do certain deposits, working as far as where our money is being deposited into, because we share the same provider identification number as the county health department. So sometimes funds go into that department and then have to be moved over into the nursing home. So it's just a process that happens sometimes for that reason in this case. But again, just working with them throughout that process each month. They have two teams in place, as a reminder to the committee. The revenue cycle management team, which worked January forward, or is working January forward, and the accounts receivable cleanup team, which is responsible for days of service prior to January of this year. So they took into account 12 months prior to January of this year, where they're working backwards as far as all of the aging at this point. To note as well, they make reference to adjustments, which are claims that were paid, a balance or whatever amount due having been identified as contractual, so that we could be paid for that older claim as far as the accounts receivable or the AR cleanup process. A payment to the facility was a payment that was identified that was already paid to the facility. Any amounts that had to be moved to a private balance, which would then be further followed up with collections looking at those amounts as private amounts. And then, of course, write-offs, which we'll also discuss as well, which they have their first submission for the committee's review as far as an amount that they've come up with at this point, what they've deemed as not able to be collected at this time. Just a few notes, again, looking from the initial part of this. As we made this, Jennifer can speak to as well if she sees fit. As we work through the initial part of this, a lot of our efforts with the startup going from the previous provider to them in this case was a little slow going because, long story short, Jennifer primarily, let alone myself, did not have access to a lot of the systems, the billing systems, the state systems, various websites that we needed to do billing and collection. So getting them set up with the accesses that they needed. Jennifer's, I think, it goes without saying, has taken on the brunt of those efforts as far as trying to break into all those systems and get them set up with what they need so that they can do everything they needed to do at this point. So that's been quite, I will tell you, that's been quite an amount of work. There are two, I guess what I would describe, two types of accounts, the Instamet and the PaySpan. You want to explain that at all?
So actually, I've got to get a hold of them and find out exactly. I don't know if it's a different term that they're using that I'm familiar with, because that name I'm not familiar with. And the PaySpan, actually, we're working with Rochelle on getting access to that. I think we're actually talking about changing that over to where the checks aren't coming in through there. So, because that's where the rebates for some of the insurance. So I think we're just gonna go with actually getting rid of that one and not using that one anymore. So that way we have better access.
It's worth noting as well that when I had commented earlier on collections or monies deposited, as they put in their report, the monies that we showed deposited in January were pretty much a reflection of December amounts, even as far as amounts that we were reimbursed. February, they had total cash collected $290,836 and 62 cents. They had noted as well that as they continue to work on the aging, cash will be caught up in April. So they've already essentially done that because we've already bounced back in the month of March with well over 400,000 deposited. And with our census again, as I mentioned before, at where it is at this point, we'll expect even more reimbursement at this point. Their most recent report, again, the AR cleanup team goes back 12 months and goes back through, all of their efforts as far as the accounts that they've gone through at this point, which again, we'll talk about write-off separately. But again, just going through what was collected, any adjustments that were made, credit balances, payments to the facility that we did receive, and all of that. So their most recent report, again, just reflected, I think you probably see there, the Instamet and the PaySpan accounts, just various accounts that they're working with still as well. Noted as far as what they've been able to gain access to, as far as any of the information related to those. And then, of course, they had made mention as far as cost of living adjustments, letters that need to ensure Medicaid residents receive monthly income being current. So again, Jennifer works with them again on an ongoing basis as far as any of that. And so they just continue their processes from month to month at this point. And they jumped on it in every way that they could. They've hit up the treasurer's office, they hit up our facility as far as every piece of information that they needed to do what they had to do. And they jumped on it and they did exactly what they were expected to do. Based on all pieces of information that Jennifer and I have both reviewed with them. So, and as I've reported, the revenue is continuing to come into the facility. There's been no disruption in that whatsoever. I think the concern, as I said, and in the beginning was making sure they could bill for January, which is what they did. And they continued that process since. So those amounts are coming in. I will also mention as well, just in general, I guess I'll say, as far as, again, prioritization, as far as even just I've asked the county treasurer to kind of help us adjust some of her reports so that we can kind of keep on track with just payroll costs, just making sure that we're building up towards those thresholds as far as any other county expenses that we pay, things like that. So that's being completed as well. So again, they're still on course as far as their processes with us each month, and now billing for March as we're now in April. So.
Okay, any questions from Marcos, Mr. Reynolds?
First of all, I wanted to just thank Jennifer for being here. Appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Sure.
Secondly, I'm very impressed so far with the reporting we're getting from Matrix. I've been waiting for it long enough that I like all the detail, being able to tell exactly what each expense, how they've analyzed it, what they're finding. I had asked for that previously and never seen it go anywhere. So that's really, really good. Secondly, do you know what the current Medicaid reimbursement rate is per day per bed at this point from the last cost report? I have not dug into that yet, but
It is 327. I have it, but I think it's 327.16.
yeah, that matches what I'm seeing on these numbers.
Okay.
I was just kind of going through figuring everything.
Yeah, it does change every quarter, so.
Well, and just since you brought it up, Mr. Whalen, we are working with the organization that has been in place, even with the previous management company, as far as who they had contracted out with to do our annual Medicare and Medicaid cost report.
Okay.
Which is Whipley out of Wisconsin. So we are working with them, getting the information they need to be able to complete that for this year as well.
Okay.
So,
is there anything else you need in order to facilitate the billing and revenue process at this point, in your opinion?
I don't think so. I mean, I've been working with them, closely, so, together, but I don't think so. Not as of right now, anyway.
Okay. So far, your opinion too?
It's been going well. It's been going very well.
Good.
they've bombarded
Been a lot of work.
her.
It's been a lot of work.
And thank you for
A lot of work.
all that time and effort.
For primarily you.
But it's been good. It's been good. Just a lot.
I bet you've learned a lot.
I have.
I
I
know
have.
I
Yeah,
have over the last couple of years, getting to know this
Yes.
stuff. Yes, ma'am.
exactly.
Thank you.
All right, any additional, yep, Mr. Hadley?
So, if I read this right, this is 2/1 through 2/28. We were billing for 424,726.09. What's the turnaround time on that amount of money coming back to the county?
So they actually did note that on that same page. They
Okay.
noted that the cash will be caught up in April.
Okay,
The difference in the amounts, because I wondered about that myself, and I was looking further into that, but they because of the slow start as far as the difficulties that we had in getting them up and running, with the information that I need, because we didn't have any of it because that was all in the hands of the previous provider. They just kind of had a little bit of slow going with that, but that will all be addressed at this point by this current month.
Looks like we've took in quite a bit of money for the month of February. And what I would like to see again is some that the management company did. Monthly charges for the month and expenses for that month.
The county board chairman has actually requested that, so I'm in the
Yeah.
process of putting that together.
What I like about that is it kind of gives us a picture, when we were looking at it, sometimes we were in the black, sometimes we were in the red. But it gave you an idea, that we maybe were taking in 20,000 more or 30,000 more, something like that. I like to see that again. That's, and also I wanted to back up the one thing because, as a veteran and going to the veteran organizations, what do we hear on the VA contract?
So as it happens many times when dealing with government officials, not necessarily at the county level, but not at the county level, but at the federal level, sometimes it's been a little bit slow going because of their own schedule. So the admissions director and I, Jeannie Cross, have been in further communication with them and are waiting on further responses from them as far as further communications, setting up further meetings and such as that. So that's still in progress.
Okay, because I know there's some veterans that are looking to want to come back home again.
I believe that.
And so this would be a boost, and this is good pay also to the county.
As it was in the past, that's
In the
true.
past, so
And so that my intention is to get that wrapped up as quickly as possible.
if I recall, we had about 6 to 7 veterans out there.
I believe
full-time,
that.
So,
And the rate of reimbursement is, like you said, is typically good.
yeah,
So
okay, thank you.
Chairman, you had a question?
I do on the cleanup detail, Martha or Jennifer, I'm not sure if either one of you could help me with this, but when we get down to the bottom left on the write-offs, there's 3 that I'm curious about. One says no authorization, $25,705. Another says no claim on file, $3,264. And the final is no timely follow-up by facility for $37,521.34. I understand that these are all prior to both of you. This was more so back when the management company was doing it. Do you have any information on those 3 items? I guess I'm curious more than anything on no claim on file and no authorization.
Well, you can certainly explain that process because we deal with that even now.
So, well, actually, so I only have this.
He's talking about
as
this one, I
well.
think. So
Is he? I guess I was.
you're talking about the write-off report, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, the error cleanup detail, page 5.
No, this,
Oh,
yeah, this way. So we only got this all ourselves today, and I already noted to actually work with them to find out more of the details of what I mean, I know what it means as far as there's no authorization when they come in, under a Medicare replacement, we have to get a pre-authorization. I can say, since I've been there, we haven't had any issues getting pre-authorizations.
Yeah.
So I just want to clarify that myself to find out exactly if it was maybe possibly before I was there, or maybe if they're like referencing something different. And then as far as like the timely filing, I would assume that would mean the submission of the claims. And then the follow-up by the facility, I'm not exactly sure what they mean by that. So I would like to know the detail on that as well, but we only got.
well, at least that specific one. But again, it may not necessarily pertain to follow-up in terms of, maybe documentation requests, because we deal with that now. Even with the Medicare insurances that have an insurance company to manage their Medicare benefits, that's the whole process is every week approximately. They'll ask for additional documentation requests to review the clinical status of each resident, like piece by piece, so that they can approve a certain date and then a certain date frame. And then if there's no follow-up by the facility, then they won't provide, they won't reimburse, that whole process falls apart. So
I guess I would just ask, and again, understanding that this most likely was not under either of your times with the facility, but do you feel confident that going forward, things like this will not occur?
Absolutely. That's why I kind of wanted to find out for sure and then if we don't know what problem they were having then we wouldn't know if it was a problem now to
Sure.
fix it. But I don't see it being any problem since I've been there. We haven't had any of those issues with the authorizations or the continued stay. Or anything like that.
I think I mean, feel free to just to say what you think, but I think at this point, we've pretty much ironed out those processes. With the members of management that handle those things, we have our medical records individual, our coordinator who,
Mhm.
takes care of pretty much all those processes as far as authorizations for, like I said, every step of the way, as far as those short-term Medicare stays, any documentation requests. Our Jeannie, the admissions director, makes sure that we have and also pre-authorization for any people like that before they come into the building. So yeah, I mean, I don't think we have those issues at this point.
It'd be interesting to find out exactly the time frame that they're looking at, because I know when I even was hired on, a lot of those positions were empty. There wasn't an admissions marketing person, so.
So that was
like,
part of the difficulty, I think, too, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if it reflects from prior to that, it would be unfortunate, it would make more sense. Definitely don't think it would be an issue going forward. And with, like you said, we didn't have Joy before either for medical
Medical
records to do the continued. So I'm gonna find out about that.
And again, the reason why I'm making I guess an issue of it is you have $29,000 in the bank right now. Last Friday, this amount of write-off, 65,000 would have covered the shortfall of the payroll.
Mhm.
So every penny counts. So,
Absolutely.
all right, well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, any questions? Yes. All right, moving on to 8.0 old business, no old business, 9.0 new business. 9.1 approval of bad debt write-off for Matrix for the previous year. Mr. Marcos, so you think you're gonna present that to us?
And I apologize, Mr. Chairman, I was actually referring to that specific report, that I had, the county administrator had asked me to redact, I think in this case, as it relates to just the various, accounts that, Quality Healthcare Resources had gone through, already, which in this case, reflected a total of $91,605.71. And the language in all of these accounts reflects timely filing issues. No follow-up by the facility. So again, as I think more than likely, even just follow up by the facility, again, working with the insurance company to get what they need so they can process timely payment, which obviously was not done in the past for whatever reason. Again, a lot of these were timely filing issues for both Medicare Part A, Medicare Part B. Yeah, in fact, all of these were timely filing issues. And I will say, when Quality Healthcare Resources came on board, or even prior, they had made mention to, whatever level of success they might have, depending on how long it had been since these accounts could have been worked, perhaps. And again, looking at it from their perspective, this is what they've come up with so far, as far as these accounts, which they don't feel that there's any hope of collecting. So we're looking at approximately 92,000 in this case. So 91,605.71.
Okay, and I just want to make a note too, just as I'm sitting here, if you read some of the notes that they put in there, it kind of explains a little bit of
It does.
timestamps and everything, dates for each one. All right. So do I have a motion to
So
approve
moved.
by Mr. Bush? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
By Mr. Will, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. 9.2, approval of RFP for property brokerage and consulting services for sale or transfer of Stephenson County Nursing Center Walnut Acres. Chairman?
So as I stated just a few minutes ago about payroll, over the weekend, I was notified that there would not be funds sufficient to cover tomorrow's payroll for the nursing home. I called an emergency meeting on Monday morning to have the facility director, Jennifer was there, Georgia was there, Nicole was there, Adrian, finance director was there. The treasurer was there, all in hopes of coming up with a solution to stave off disaster and be able to pay our employees. The only solution that was provided was to do an interfund loan from the county's general fund, budgeted reserves for other departments with no viable repayment plan. That's why we called to have a special meeting on 6 o'clock Wednesday. Thankfully, Tuesday afternoon, just enough funds came in to cover payroll. We were able to cancel that meeting and move forward. My fear is that this is going to be an ongoing situation, hopefully not every 2 weeks and hopefully not every month, to where we have to figure out how we're going to make payroll. Cash flow is the problem right now. We've nearly exhausted the entirety of the advance of the levy. Obviously, we used 400,000 of that to pay TCM. There's the remaining 16,000 that we will need to use to pay for Leschers for the HVAC units. The reason why I am recommending that we pay Leschers those dollars is because if there's any issues with those HVAC units and they're not paid, they're not coming back out to work on them. And that's a life safety issue. And I'm not willing to put the residents' lives at risk over $16,000. Now, as I said, when Mr. Hadley had asked, we were also looking at doing a budget amendment, going through finance on Monday and the full board on Thursday for $20,000 or $13,000. No, I have 20 in my mind. To move from the capital line back over to the nursing home, which is what we had originally done in 2024 when we anticipated that this project would have been completed then. So that will be enough to pay Leschers and ensure that if there's any issues in the coming heat in the summer months, that we should be okay. The issue is we've reached critical tipping point as far as cash flow is concerned. We now have 7 vendors who are demanding payments under the threat of termination of services, litigation, or both. That's 7. And one of them is food service. We owe our current food service vendor $205,000. Our previous food vendor from over 2 years ago, still $70,000. The list of past due vendors is substantial. Stephenson County is owed for liability insurance premium, Social Security, IMRF, and health insurance for almost $351,000. Those are being paid by budgeted general revenue expenses. They're going to other departments. In total, TCM's been paid $400,000 so far in 2025. And with the upcoming payroll, not tomorrow's, but the next on the 22nd, we'll be in debt nearly $1.4 million. Not being able to pay these vendors on time not only affects quality of life for the residents, but it also has a direct impact on their safety and well-being. The lack of cash flow, and I can't stress this enough, is all that matters right now. Saying that the facility is profitable over and over, but willfully ignoring the fact that the facility is not cash flowed for 5+ years has proven to be intentionally reckless and quite frankly dangerous to the residents. It also has a direct impact on our liability with the county. Hiring and maintaining a management company has proven it will not fix this problem. Higher census is not going to fix this problem past due bills. The only way to get out of under this blanket of excess debt is to have excess capital and reserves. We have none. 0. We have $29,000 in the bank right now. We need to be through with allowing people that refuse to see the truth of the situation, who blatantly politicize the residents and the employees, purposely putting the residents at risk, and the employees for losing their jobs, all to further their own political agendas. The only way to allow the residents to continue to stay there and the employees to keep their jobs is to put this in the hands of a private ownership that has that capital and excess revenue that will weather storms like we've had since COVID hit. So before you tonight is the RFP for property brokerage and consulting services. My hope is that you will approve these.
Okay, so before we have any open discussions, I have a motion to approve.
You have a motion to approve.
And Mr. Whalen, I have a second. Second. And Ms. Jackie, any discussion?
I would offer the fact I've looked in detail at both the market here in Stephenson County, analyze this budget up and down for the last 2 years, and I have come to the conclusion myself, the economies of scale really just aren't there. When you look at the nursing home business on a broader scope, on a broader scale. It's very difficult, you know, when you compare how things were maybe 30 years ago when this whole thing got going to how things are today. The amount of government that's involved in it has quintupled typically in terms of the process. And I think all you have to do is ask her how easy it is just to do billing nowadays. So having that managed by the county board who changes hands every 2 years, I don't want anything bad to happen to this place. Okay, I want everybody in this room to understand that. You know, Mr. Klein and I have had that discussion a few different times. But I'm also a realist, and I want to implore everybody here to step back, get the personal insights out of it, or the personal emotions out of it, if you will, and look at the facts that our chairman just presented in terms of the financial state of the situation. You know, just looking at even increasing the census to 55, I ran the numbers and we're still, you know, $500,000 under budget by the end of the year. Because we've already used our excess capital. Yeah, there may be other ways we could borrow from Henry to pay Paul, but it's still a very difficult proposition for a single home. Okay. When you look at a lot of the companies and institutions within this industry, you look at the trends and the trend lines, a lot of them are going to multi-site setups, mainly because of economies of scale. I don't really like huge companies. I like things smaller and more, versatile, more able to respond to things. But in this industry, it's becoming more and more difficult to manage a situation on a single entity unit. I'm just telling you, that's the facts bear that out. You know, you can study it all you want. That's the way it's gonna come back. My hope is that if we go through this, we can find a quality organization that can manage this home in a way that will move it forward, keep it in our community, keep all the employees that we have, and hopefully make it an even better place. Now, I realize there's a chance that may not happen with a company we could sell it to, right? I mean, we all know that. I recognize that as well. But at this point in the enterprise, you know, I saw where we were at back in 2005 with this thing. I couldn't believe it was still going, to be honest with you, when I got back here on the county board here a couple of years ago. But as our chairman said, we tried the TCM route, we tried a management company, and here we are 2 years later. Yeah, we gave them every opportunity to succeed. And again, we're sitting here at 1.4 million in the hole trying to play catch up. So my hope, again, I'm gonna vote to move this forward, at least so we can debate it at the county board level. And my sincere hope is that we can find a company that can truly manage this the way that it should be managed, professionally and with a understanding of the business. That frankly, people that come into this seat every 2 to 4 years are going to take at least a year in a lot of cases to understand. Because it took me, I consider myself pretty astute at financial stuff. I've read a lot of financial reports over the years. I've done a lot in the business world. But it took me a good 6 months to understand this. I talked to people downstate. I talked to administrators of probably 20 other nursing homes in this state, both private and public. I had 2 grandparents that had been through this whole process out at Liberty Village. I had to go through the whole thing. So I understand what it takes to do a pre-authorization, okay, for Medicaid, to actually go through the process with a second individual. And it's not easy, you know, and it's the thing that stinks is it affects families, it affects people in a very emotional way. So we have to be very cautious, I think, in how we approach this. But the fact of the matter is still the financial burden at this point on this county and on this board in our situation that we're in is a very, very difficult one. When I got that call on Monday, I was just like, I wanted to put my head through the window. Like, no, we can't be in a situation where we gotta deal with this every few months, oh, how? And maybe it will get better, we could take that chance. That is something we can debate at the board on Thursday next week. And maybe that'll be the way it falls, but I think at this point, it would behoove us to at least see what types of companies we could have come in and look at taking over this institution and hopefully making it better over the long run. So that would be my 2 cents. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I always, well, as most of you know, that I always been for the nursing home. It always will be. I had also stated that if we use the same energy that we use to try to sell the place, to save it, we could save it. I really believe that now that Marcos is on board and the new building company is on board, and even though we might, as you stated, will not bring us out of it, but I think it'll get us in a better shape. Somehow or another, I believe that we can come out of this. And that's where I'm at with, so I would be voting no on this.
Thanks.
I got a couple of questions and a statement. This is not going to the board next week.
No,
This,
No, oh,
no, release from the committee.
be released from the committee.
The
I'm sorry.
responses from the
My
RFP
bad.
would go before the board in May.
Understood.
so I started on the board back in 2002. Me and Sam Newton are probably the longest serving ones that are still on the board. And yeah, it's been a roller coaster ride. I've seen the good times and I've seen the bad times. But I've seen us in a total debt of $2 million out there, and I seen a county nursing home administrator turn the thing around. And I believe with a good county administrator, I believe Mr. Perez can turn things around, because I've seen Darnell Fortney turn things around, where in working with our county administrator, Russ Malnix, and working with our treasurer that is now our finance director, we were able to do creative things. And I believe that we could do those things again, but a lot of board members disagree with me on those creative things. And so I want to focus on a couple other things here. Number one, we have to look at the big picture. Somebody brought up about the sale of the nursing home. I have here June 1st of 2023 to the UCCI members on the sale of a county-owned nursing home. And they had, in their opinion, they were leaning more towards that we need to have a referendum. That the voters voted to build the new nursing home, the voters should have a say if we're going to sell the county nursing home. And so I read through this agreement again, and also we have to get this approved through IDPH down in Springfield. And somebody brought up a good point that DeKalb was denied, and they said, denied the company. So we have to look at the big picture. Are we ready to go into court and pay all this money to fight this case, to lose it, and then have to put it on the ballot? Because I believe it needs to be put on the ballot. It's the people's house, and the people need to decide if they want to keep the house or they don't want to keep the house. And so I'm a strong believer, and I've been pushing this for 2-3 years, that we should have been putting this on the ballot. We might, the voters might decide that they want to sell the nursing home. So, but I believe that 16 people should not make this decision. I believe the voters of this county should make this tough decision, So saying that, we could possibly be in a lawsuit and have to turn around and have a referendum, or we could lose it down in Springfield. And another reminder is county-run nursing homes get more money in Medicare and Medicaid than regular private-owned nursing homes. So I am going to be voting no on this, because I think we need to get a chance. We have a possible open door here for a VA contract, and positive things can just happen. I know that we had some financial issues, but, we overcame them before as a board, and I think we can overcome them again as a board. Thank you.
Hey. Anybody else? Yes.
Yeah, I will remind everyone that this board also had to repay the state of Illinois a substantial amount of money because of overbilling that was done by Darnell Fortney when he brought it out of the indebtedness that it had. It was incorrectly billed. That was an agreement that was passed through this committee, and passed through the county board. I don't want to do anything creative like that again. I would say that. And again, my fear is if we can't make payroll, what is the option? What's the next option if we can't pay the employees? If you want to talk about big picture, what happens to the employees? And then not only what happens to the employees, what happens to the residents? If those residents have to be moved, the likelihood of something tragic happening to them through the move is very high. It's very high. So please, this isn't about timing. We have gone over the cliff. Please consider that. Please consider the residents and the employees.
Great. So I will be voting for this, but I'm looking at it as options of seeing what is out there. This is just the first step. Depending on what the long haul comes, it will go at the full board, and that's where the final decision will be made. So, we have a motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No,
So I request for a roll call vote, please.
All right. Mr. Whalen,
Aye.
Mr. Bush,
no,
Miss Jackie. Aye. Mr. Halen, I'm sorry, Mr. Hadley
No,
and Miss Baker, aye. So 3-2, it passes. All right, 10.0, public comment. Yes, please state your name and you have 3 minutes.
All right, that client again. I've got a few things, so I'll do this fast. First of all, I don't understand how you can have an RFP to sell a multi-million-dollar building before the board actually votes if they want to sell it. I think there's something wrong in this process. I'm a big process guy. This doesn't make any sense. Okay? These people here, 5 people should not decide if all of a sudden you want to sell the maintenance department, like all the trucks and the highway department. This does not make any sense, and there's something goofy in the ordinances. Second is, as far as the paying for the HIVAC, if there is I haven't seen a contract. If the contract is for $200,000, as soon as you go over that $200,000, Lesher should have brought that to the board and said, hey, we're this far in the project. We've had this issue. We're going to need more money. We need the board to approve that. So I don't understand what happened there. This mishy-mashy thing about when it was budgeted doesn't mean a thing. I've had a business. I had a customer. I tell the customer it's going to cost $500. I get to that $500 and I needed $50 to finish it. I'm going to talk to that customer and say, hey, what do you want me to do? So there's something didn't happen right there. I know Chesney wants to sell this facility. Chesney has wanted to sell this facility forever. That is common knowledge in this town. Unfortunately, we've got people on this board that follow his lead right down the block. It's pitiful. It absolutely is pitiful. 2 years ago, there were no buyers. There were no good buyers. If there had been, it would have been sold. Mr. Helms did not inform the board that the earnest money was never presented. As soon as the earnest money was not presented, that contract was null and void. We never had a buyer, and nobody ever brought that forward. That is a definite, that's your duty to do that, sir, and you didn't do it. I have no idea. Well, I know why, because you hope something would happen, and you had a buyer that never. When you check, nobody did due diligence on that year because it was just a ridiculous, terrible. The other thing is this is never, as far as I've ever been around, there's never been a problem with paying payroll. There's no idea why it happened this time, but there's been no explanation for that. Why all of a sudden there's nothing money for payroll. I do know this, you can open the budget up, you can take $1 million out of that budget, you can put it in this and pay the bills. Pay all this outstanding stuff and be done with that screwing around every month trying to figure out who to pay. You could do it, you absolutely could, but instead, you want to just keep messing around with the nursing home and just screw around until everybody gets disgusted with it. This is this has been the way this has been done for years. And it's really tiring, and I'm tired of talking about it. Just as sure the community is tired of hearing about it, and I'm sure you guys are tired of hearing about it too.
I'd like to follow up with, now that I've heard the comments about how to pay for it, and there seems to be problems with it, shortages. What I understand is that there was a referendum to get this, and so the people wanted it. And I don't know a lot about that referendum, but I would imagine when they had the referendum, the public also agreed to pay for it. So if the problem is purely funding versus selling, let's look at our other options. We don't have to just sell because we're having a shortage. Why don't we put up a referendum and ask the people if they want to fund it? I would fund it. We're funding a library. We're funding mosquito abatement. You know, put a little wedge on the piece of pie where I'm going to fund the nursing home. Why can't we do that? I don't know why the nursing home is under the county and why the county is micromanaging it, or the county has to make up for the shortages. But why can't we just put up a referendum and ask the people if they want to pay for the nursing home? I'm all for paying for the nursing home. If we can pay for a library, I'm more than willing to pay for a nursing home.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Mr. Holm, I think you need to choose your words carefully. You said we were over the cliff, but we aren't over the cliff. We found the money. You said that since 2005, this has been an issue. This is 20 years later, and you guys are still figuring out that we can afford to keep that nursing home. And another thing, you said that this was a political agenda for me. The only reason that I care about this is because of my political, like, what am I supposed to, you think I'm going to run for office? That has nothing to do with it. My feelings here are come from being an RN for 20 years, from taking care of people and understanding that the most important thing that we can do is care for our neighbors. That's it. I would be here whether I was a chair of the Stephenson County Democrats or not. I was here fighting for this nursing home when he was on his deathbed at Mayo Clinic. And I figured, well, I'm sitting in this hospital room. The least I can do is keep fighting for these other people that need me to do that. So how dare you say that this is a political agenda?
Anybody else? All right, moving on to 11.0 executive session 5L ILCS 120-2C11 litigation when action against an affecting or on behalf of a particular public body has been filed and is pending theretofore a court or administration tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent. Do I have a roll call to go into executive session?
I make a motion to go into executive session.
Second, by Mr. Whalen. Sorry, by Mr. Whalen, second by Jackie. Mr. Whalen, Mr. Bush. Ms. Jackie, Mr. Hadley, Baker, aye.
Dale, he can stay.
Oh, he's shutting the door.
Okay.
I'd say Lynette
Yeah.
still too.
I'm just moving chairs.
May I stay? Yeah, you're already fine. Thank you.
You shut the other door.
But you gotta shut that door whenever you.
No, the
No,
other.
the other one, not that one. We'll be locked in here. I can say.
Thank you, Dale.
Yeah, I was just moving chairs.
Mr. Hadley, I'm sorry, I keep screwing up your name.